I was about to lose everything in divorce court, until my 10-year-old looked at the judge and said, "Your Honor, may I show you something Dad doesn't know?" The judge nodded. When the video started, the entire courtroom went silent. Sup, Reddit. So there I was, sitting in a courthouse on a Tuesday morning, watching my marriage get picked apart like a rotisserie chicken at a buffet. I, 38 male, have been married to Heather, 36 female, for 16 years, have one kid, and up until about 3 hours ago, I thought my life was solid. Good job as an operations supervisor at a manufacturing plant. House in a decent neighborhood, the works. Turns out I was the funding source, and she was already shopping for the replacement. In the courtroom, Heather's lawyer, this woman in a power suit that cost more than my truck, was laying out their temporary orders request like she was reading off a shopping list. Primary custody. Exclusive use of the house. Temporary support of $4,200 per month. Attorney's fees, plus a bunch of restrictions that made it clear this wasn't about fairness. It was about control. What really got me was Heather herself. She wasn't crying or conflicted. She was checking her phone under a folder on the table, whispering to her lawyer during my testimony, passing sticky notes. When her lawyer scored a point about my work hours, Heather's foot stopped tapping, and she actually smiled. Not sad, not regretful, relieved. Our daughter Maya sat in the gallery between us. 10 years old, clutching this beat-up stuffed giraffe she's had since she was 3. The bailiff had already handed her a tissue during the opening statements. I still couldn't understand why Heather insisted she be here. What kind of mom makes their kids sit through this? During the first recess, I caught Heather in the hallway near the vending machines. My voice stayed even but firm. "What's this really about, Heather? Last month we were planning Maya's birthday trip. Now you're trying to paint me as some absent father." Her jaw tightened. "Some things can't be explained. You'll understand when this is finished." Before I could push back, her lawyer appeared from the bathroom and pulled her away. I stood there watching them walk off, more certain than ever that something bigger was happening under the surface. Back in the courtroom, I noticed Maya watching her mother, with this look that seemed way too serious for a 10-year-old. When Heather caught her staring, Maya quickly looked away and focused on her giraffe, but something in her expression made me uneasy. My kid looked worried about something bigger than the divorce. Heather's lawyer kept building their case. Emotional unavailability, absent father, workaholic who prioritized career over family. They weren't asking for a custody arrangement. They were asking for control. And Maya. My kid kept looking back and forth between us like she was carrying something heavy that no 10-year-old should have to deal with. I didn't know my kid was about to turn a custody hearing into a crime scene. Sitting there listening to Heather's lawyer turn me into the villain, my brain started replaying the past year. Maybe 8 months back, Heather got distant. Hushed phone calls, separate bedrooms. The weirdest part was how she started acting with Maya. Whispered conversations that stopped when I appeared. One night while helping with homework, Maya looked up and asked, "Dad, how do you know if somebody's lying to you?" When I asked why, she shrugged and said, "Sometimes people say stuff, but then they do different stuff." Now, sitting in that courtroom, I realized I'd seen everything. I just hadn't connected the dots. I glanced at Maya. She sat perfectly still, giraffe in her lap, but her eyes were alert. When she noticed me looking, she gave me the small, sad smile that kicked me in the gut. Then she reached into her backpack and pulled out a tablet, the one Heather bought her for educational games 6 months ago. Maya held it carefully, like it might explode. She looked from the tablet to me, then to Heather, then back to the tablet. "Dad," she whispered, leaning closer. "I gotta tell somebody something. It's really important." "What is it?" She glanced around nervously. I have a thing. That shows what's really going on. Like what mom's really doing." Before I could ask what she meant, Heather's lawyer called Heather to testify. I watched my wife stand up, smooth her dress, and walk to the witness chair like she was about to accept an award. She put her hand on the Bible, swore to tell the truth, and started answering questions about our marriage and my alleged failures as a husband and father. Every word sounded reasonable, sympathetic. She painted herself as this devoted wife who tried everything to save the marriage. A protective mother who finally realized she needed to prioritize Maya's well-being. She talked about my long hours, frequent overtime, inability to emotionally engage. She mentioned couples counseling I'd supposedly refused, which was news to me since she'd never asked. She referenced a pattern of financial control that made her feel trapped. Some of it had bits of truth, which made it sting worse. But listening to Heather testify, I kept thinking about Maya's words. I have a thing that shows what's really going on. What could a 10-year-old possibly have that mattered in a divorce case? And why did my daughter look more scared about her mother's testimony than I did? Heather kept talking, spinning our marriage into this tragedy caused entirely by my neglect. The whole time, Maya gripped that tablet like it was a live grenade. She kept glancing between Heather and the judge with fear mixed with determination. Then my phone buzzed. Bank fraud alert. Wire transfer initiated from our joint savings account. $12,000. I sat there staring at the screen while my heart rate spiked. The transfer was happening right now, in real time, while Heather sat in the witness chair talking about my financial control issues. I screenshotted the alert. Checked the timestamp. 10:47 a.m. Then I leaned over to my lawyer and showed him both. His eyebrows shot up. He immediately started typing something on his laptop, pulling up our joint account online. Heather was still testifying, still playing the victim. And while she did, she was literally stealing from our joint account. I stepped out to the hallway, called the fraud line, got a case number, and confirmed the transfer was still pending. Wouldn't clear until end of business. My lawyer made a note when I came back in. Pending transfer. Still reversible. Then my 10-year-old daughter stood up. The courtroom went silent. Every head turned as Maya raised her hand and said in this clear, steady voice, "Your Honor, I need to show you something. Something that Dad doesn't even know about." The judge, this woman who looked like she'd seen every variety of family court nightmare, raised her eyebrows. "What do you need to show me, young lady?" Heather went pale, like all the blood just drained from her face. Her lawyer jumped up. "Your Honor, this is completely inappropriate. The child hasn't been called as a witness, and we have no idea." "Counselor, sit down." The judge's voice carried weight. "If this child has relevant information, I'm going to hear it." She looked at Maya. "Come up here, sweetheart. What's your name?" "Maya," my daughter said, walking forward with more guts than most adults show in their entire lives. "I'm 10, and I live with my mom and dad, but Mom wants to take me away from Dad. And that's not fair, because Dad didn't do the bad things Mom said. He really didn't." Heather gripped the witness chair armrests so hard her knuckles turned white. "What do you have there?" the judge asked. "It's my tablet. Mom gave it to me for games and learning and stuff, but I figured out how to make videos with it too." Maya's voice stayed steady, but her hands trembled slightly. "I was making videos like a diary thing? Because I felt confused about everything. And sometimes I left it recording when Mom talked on the phone because she sounded weird, like a different voice." The judge leaned forward, but her expression shifted to something more careful. "Maya, I need to ask you something first. Did anyone tell you to record these conversations? An adult?" "No, ma'am. I felt confused and I wanted to understand what was happening." "Did you edit or change any of the recordings?" "No, I don't know how to do that." The judge nodded slowly. "All right. Before we proceed, I'm going to review this evidence in chambers with a court-appointed child advocate present. This is sensitive material involving a minor, and we're going to handle it appropriately." She looked at the court reporter. "Let the record reflect that at 11:03 a.m., the minor child has presented electronic evidence for preliminary review. Court will recess for chambers conference." She turned to Maya. "Sweetheart, you're not in trouble, but I need to look at this carefully with some other adults first to make sure we do this right. Can you wait with the bailiff?" Maya nodded. The judge looked at both lawyers. "Counselor for petitioner, counselor for respondent, you'll both attend. I'm also calling in a guardian ad litem who's in the building. 20-minute recess." As we filed toward chambers, Heather grabbed her lawyer's arm, whispering frantically. The court reporter packed up her equipment to move it. Maya walked next to the bailiff, still clutching that tablet. I caught up to my lawyer outside chambers. "What just happened?" "The judge is being smart. If she just lets a kid testify without proper procedure, Heather's lawyer will argue it was coerced or improperly obtained. This way, everything's documented and above board." He paused. "What's on that tablet better be good, because we're about to find out." In chambers, the atmosphere was different. Less formal, more tense. The guardian ad litem arrived within 10 minutes. A woman in her 50s with a notepad and the tired look of someone who'd seen too many custody battles. The judge looked at Maya, who sat in a chair that was too big for her, still holding her giraffe. "Maya, before we look at anything, I need to ask, did anyone tell you to make these recordings or bring them to court?" Maya shook her head. "No, ma'am. Dad doesn't even know about it. I just wanted somebody to know the true stuff." The judge made a note. "All right. The guardian ad litem is here as your advocate. These recordings will be reviewed for relevance and authenticity. Let's see what we have." Maya tapped the screen. "This one's from when I was trying to make a dance video in my room and I forgot it was recording. I went to get a snack and it got Mom on her phone in the hall." She turned the tablet toward the judge. Even from where I sat, I could hear audio starting to play. Heather's voice came through the speaker, but it was Heather in a way I'd never heard her. Cold. Calculating. "Of course I don't love him anymore, Trevor. Haven't loved him in years. He's just been convenient, you know? Steady paycheck. Someone to cover the boutique losses while I figured out my exit strategy. The business is bleeding money and he has no clue how bad it actually is." My blood went cold. Who the heck was Trevor? And what boutique losses? The recording continued. "The best part is he's so trusting, so blind. Never looks at the books, just transfers money when I ask. I could probably bring you to the house and he'd find a way to rationalize it. Once the divorce goes through and I get the house and alimony, we can stop hiding. Let the boutique collapse. It's not my problem anymore. You'll have your investment back and we're clear." The judge's expression didn't change, but she made several notes. She looked at Heather. "Do you recognize that voice?" Heather's face had gone from pale to red. "That's taken completely out of context. A private conversation?" I asked if you recognize the voice. "Yes or no?" "Yes, but thank you." The judge looked at Maya. "Is there more?" Maya nodded. "I have another video, and pictures of texts, and stuff about the doorbell camera." "Let's see the video first." The second video showed Heather and a guy I'd never seen before in our kitchen. They were kissing, and it wasn't tentative or new. This was practiced. Comfortable. The timestamp showed 2:47 p.m. on a Tuesday afternoon in April. The metadata was visible at the bottom of the screen. The judge paused it. "Please note the timestamp for the record." "Maya, do you know who this man is?" "No, ma'am. But his car's been at our house a lot when Dad's at work. A black BMW with a dent in the front." "How do you know about his car?" "'Cause of the doorbell camera. It goes offline every time the BMW shows up." The judge looked at me. "You have a doorbell camera system?" "Yes, Your Honor. Ring doorbell." "I thought the offline issues were Wi-Fi problems." "We'll subpoena the access logs." She looked at Maya. "You mentioned text messages?" Maya swiped to a different folder. Screenshots of text exchanges. The judge leaned forward to read them, her expression getting harder. These appear to be communications between your mother and someone named Trevor, discussing financial matters and divorce strategy. She looked at Heather's lawyer. Counselor, I'm going to mark these as preliminary exhibits and continue this hearing. But first, I need to address something that came to my attention during your client's testimony. She looked at my lawyer. Counselor, you indicated there was an issue with marital accounts? My lawyer stood. Yes, Your Honor. While Mrs. Heather was testifying about my client's alleged financial control, a wire transfer of $12,000 was initiated from the joint savings account. I have the fraud alert here, timestamped at 10:47 a.m. this morning. The transfer is still pending. The judge's expression went arctic. Show me. My lawyer handed over his laptop showing the bank's website with the pending transfer. I gave him my phone with the screenshot and fraud case number. The judge studied both, then looked at Heather. Did you initiate a wire transfer this morning from your joint account? Heather's lawyer started to speak, but the judge cut her off with a look. Your client can answer, counselor. Heather's voice was barely a whisper. I was moving money to a separate account for protection. Given the circumstances, you initiated an unauthorized transfer of marital funds while sitting in my courtroom testifying about your husband's financial control. The judge's voice could have frozen water. Counselor, I'm issuing an immediate freeze on all joint accounts. I'm also ordering the bank to reverse that transfer. Bailiff, please ensure Mrs. Heather surrenders all debit and credit cards linked to joint accounts before leaving this courthouse. She looked at Maya with something close to sympathy. Young lady, you've been very brave today. What you did took courage. But I need you to promise me something. No more recording. That's not your job. The adults are going to handle this now. Can you promise me that? Maya nodded, tears starting to stream down her face now. Yes, ma'am. I just wanted to help Dad. You did help. You did exactly the right thing. The guardian ad litem will stay with Maya. I need to speak with counsel privately. The guardian ad litem took Maya out to the waiting area. As soon as the door closed, the judge turned to both lawyers. Here's what's going to happen. Counselor, she looked at Heather's lawyer. Your client has presented false testimony, initiated financial fraud during court proceedings, and these recordings suggest a pattern of deception and financial misconduct. I'm dismissing the temporary orders request for exclusive use and support pending a full evidentiary hearing. She looked at my lawyer. Counselor, I assume you'll be filing counterclaims? Yes, Your Honor. Emergency custody motion, financial fraud claims, and a request for forensic accounting of Mrs. Heather's business records. File them by tomorrow morning. I'm scheduling an expedited evidentiary hearing for next Tuesday at 9 a.m. In the meantime, I'm granting Mr. Eric temporary emergency custody of Maya, with Mrs. Heather to have supervised visitation only at an approved facility. She paused. And Mrs. Heather, I'm ordering you to produce all financial records related to your boutique business within 72 hours. If you fail to comply, I will issue a bench warrant. Heather's face twisted with something between rage and panic. This is insane. You're taking my daughter based on recordings that could be fake, could be edited. Mrs. Heather, those recordings have metadata. The bank transfer is real. Your own testimony contradicts the evidence. And your daughter, your own child, felt the need to document your behavior because she didn't trust you. That tells me everything I need to know. The judge stood. We're done here. Court will reconvene on Tuesday. As we filed out, Heather turned to Maya with pure rage. You have no idea what you've done. You've destroyed everything. Do you understand that? Everything. The guardian ad litem immediately stepped between them. The judge's voice cut through the room. Mrs. Heather, that's enough. Bailiff, please escort Mrs. Heather from the courthouse. And Mrs. Heather, if you make any further contact with your daughter outside of court-approved supervised visitation, you will be held in contempt and face potential criminal charges. As Heather was led away, still glaring at Maya, I knelt down to my daughter's level. You okay? She nodded, but tears were streaming down her face now. I didn't want to make Mom so mad. I just wanted to help you. You did help. You did exactly the right thing. The guardian ad litem put a hand on my shoulder. I'll be conducting a full evaluation over the next week. I'll need to interview Maya, review the evidence, and make recommendations to the court. But for now, she goes home with you. For the first time since this nightmare started, I felt like I might actually survive it. My lawyer had his legal pad covered in notes when I arrived at his office. Walk me through the boutique finances. Every transfer, every amount. I pulled up my banking app. $2,000 to $3,000 a month for the past 2 years. About $72,000 total. I'd trusted her to manage it since she had the business degree. That Trevor guy from the recording owns Premier Supply Company. Multiple LLCs. History of billing disputes. He leaned forward. If your wife's business is failing and she's using your money to prop it up while running a kickback scheme with her supplier, that's fraud on multiple levels. I need every bank statement, every check, every transfer you've got. I keep digital copies of everything. Good. I'm bringing in a forensic accountant. If they're running 2 sets of books like I think they are, we'll find it. When court reconvened the following Tuesday, the atmosphere had completely shifted. Heather sat with a different lawyer. Her original attorney had withdrawn over the weekend, citing irreconcilable differences. The new guy looked overwhelmed and underprepared. The judge came in looking like she'd spent the week reading something that really made her angry. Mrs. Heather, the judge began, I've reviewed the financial records you produced. Or rather, the incomplete financial records you produced. You failed to provide business bank statements for the past 6 months, vendor invoices for the past year, and your business credit card statements. She paused. Would you care to explain that omission? Heather's new lawyer stood. Your Honor, my client is still gathering. Your client had 72 hours in a court order. That's not still gathering. That's non-compliance. The judge pulled up something on her computer. I've also been in contact with the state comptroller's office regarding the business registration for your boutique. Would you care to explain why your registered business shows minimal retail transactions, but significant vendor payments to Premier Supply Company? Heather's face went white. Furthermore, preliminary records show business losses exceeding $180,000 over the past 2 years, while joint account records show regular transfers from your husband totaling approximately $72,000 to business accounts. The comptroller's office has also flagged discrepancies between your reported sales revenue and your point-of-sale system transactions. My brain was catching up. Heather wasn't just cheating. She was running some kind of scheme with Trevor, using my money to fund it, and planning to divorce me before I discovered the losses. My lawyer stood. Your Honor, based on these findings, we're filing amended counterclaims that include fraudulent dissipation of marital assets, perjury, and a motion to hold Mrs. Heather financially liable for all losses related to her business activities. We're also requesting the court appoint a guardian ad litem, which has already been done, and requesting a full forensic audit of the business accounts. Heather's lawyer looked like he wanted to be anywhere else. Your Honor, these are serious accusations. We need time to review. Counselor, your client has been using marital funds to finance a failing business and an extramarital affair, then attempting to portray her husband as neglectful to secure alimony. She filed a fraudulent emergency motion, initiated an unauthorized wire transfer during court proceedings, and verbally attacked her own child for exposing the truth. The time for review has passed. The judge looked at Heather with barely concealed disgust. Mrs. Heather, I'm granting Mr. Eric temporary emergency custody of Maya effective immediately. You'll be allowed supervised visitation only, pending the guardian ad litem's full evaluation and recommendations. Heather jumped up. You can't take my daughter. This is insane. He's a workaholic who's never home. He doesn't know the first thing about taking care of her alone. And yet, the judge said coldly, your own daughter felt safer documenting your behavior than trusting you. That tells me everything I need to know about your parenting. The judge continued, I'm also dismissing your claims for alimony and your motion for exclusive use of the home. The evidence shows your marriage difficulties were caused by your own adultery and financial fraud. You cannot benefit from your own deception. Regarding the house, Mr. Eric has been the sole mortgage payer, and his income has been fraudulently diverted. I'm awarding him temporary possession of the marital home. Mrs. Heather, you have 30 days to remove your belongings under supervised conditions. Heather's face went from white to red. You're seriously going to destroy my life over this? I did what I had to do. He was never going to give me what I deserved. I built that business from nothing. You built it with your husband's money, the judge interrupted. And you destroyed it with fraud. We're done here. Heather turned to Maya, who sat quietly in the gallery with the guardian ad litem. Her voice dropped to something cold and sharp. I hope you're proud of yourself. You just picked his side. Don't expect me to forget that. That's when I stood up. Your Honor, I request Mrs. Heather's visitation be limited to professional supervised settings only. A mother who threatens a child for telling the truth shouldn't have unsupervised access. The judge nodded. Granted, supervised visitation only, at an approved facility with a licensed supervisor. 2 hours per week, pending further evaluation. And Mrs. Heather, if you make any further threatening statements to your daughter, I will terminate your visitation entirely. As Heather was led out by her clearly exhausted lawyer, I felt something I hadn't experienced in years. Not anger, not vindication. Clarity. I'd spent 16 years maintaining stability and building something solid. That wasn't weakness. That was exactly what protected Maya when everything else fell apart. Maya slipped her hand into mine. Dad, are we going to be okay? I looked down at my daughter, this brave kid who'd done what needed to be done. Yes, sweetheart. We're going to be better than okay. 2 days later, Maya's school called. Heather had shown up at the front office requesting to be added back to the emergency contact list and demanding pickup authorization. Mrs. Heather became very agitated when we explained we couldn't make changes without both parents' approval, the principal said. She claimed you were manipulating the school system and keeping her from her daughter. We had to ask her to leave. She threatened to handle this another way, which concerned our staff. I forwarded the custody order to the school immediately. Emergency contacts stayed as is. Heather's pickup authorization was revoked. The principal added a note to Maya's file. Do not release student to Heather under any circumstances. I also gave them the guardian ad litem's contact information. That same afternoon, I got served. At work, in front of my entire crew, process server walked onto the manufacturing floor during shift, asked for me by name, and handed me papers in front of 20 guys. I opened the envelope. Emergency restraining order request. Heather was claiming I'd made threats, that she feared for her safety, that I was preventing her from seeing Maya. Every single claim was a lie. But standing there on the floor with everyone watching me read legal papers, I looked like the bad guy. My foreman approached after the server left. Eric, you need to go handle this? Yeah, I'll be back tomorrow. I drove straight to my lawyer's office, showed him the restraining order request. He read it, shook his head. This is garbage. Pure retaliation. She's hoping to make you look dangerous and unstable. We'll fight it. And when the judge sees the pattern, Heather's going to regret this. He started making notes. The good news is, this is probably going to backfire spectacularly. The restraining order hearing was set for 5 days later. Meanwhile, I started documenting everything. Bought a composition notebook, the kind where you can tell if pages are removed. Started logging every incident. Date, time, what happened, who was present. The school incident went on page 1 with the principal's name and callback number. The courthouse service went on page 2 with my foreman as a witness. I also changed every password I had. Bank accounts, email, credit cards, streaming services, everything. Set up fraud alerts on all my credit. Called the 3 credit bureaus and put a freeze on my credit file. If Heather had already opened cards in my name, at least she couldn't open more. Then I pulled up the doorbell camera logs. Went back 6 months. Found 18 instances where the camera went offline for 30 to 90 minutes during business hours. 18 times I'd been at work and never questioned it. I documented every instance with timestamps. Some lined up with Maya's screenshots of text messages. I wasn't just angry anymore. I was precise. The hearing lasted about 15 minutes. Heather showed up without evidence. No threatening texts, no voicemails, no witnesses. Just her word. My lawyer presented the court recording of Heather's outburst and the timeline of the wire transfer attempt, plus documentation of the school incident. The judge, a different one this time but clearly briefed, looked at Heather with obvious skepticism. Mrs. Heather, you initiated financial fraud during court proceedings, made threatening statements to your daughter, and now you're claiming your husband is dangerous? She shook her head. Denied. And I'm sanctioning you for filing a frivolous motion. You'll pay Mr. Eric's attorney fees for today's hearing. Heather walked out of that hearing looking like someone had slapped her. But I knew this wasn't over. The forensic accountant my lawyer hired tore through Heather's business records like a shark through bait. When he presented his findings a week later, even my lawyer looked shaken. Your wife's been running 2 sets of books. She literally named one real numbers. He pulled up a comparison chart. The boutique's reported annual revenue, $180,000. Actual revenue, $60,000. The difference was inflated vendor invoices from Trevor's supply company. She'd order inventory worth $2,000. Trevor would invoice for $6,000. She'd pay with your transfers. They'd split the difference. 2 solid years of it. My lawyer jumped in. The DA's office is interested. Trevor's company had other billing complaints on file. The accountant continued. The boutique's lease is 3 months in default. $40,000 in unpaid vendor bills. Business account $8,000 in the red. And she's been floating it with credit cards. In your name. That stopped me cold. What? 3 credit cards using your information. Maxed out. Total balance around $35,000. Identity theft. On top of everything else, Heather had stolen my identity to finance her failing fraud scheme. My lawyer made more notes. We're filing a police report today. Identity theft, credit card fraud, the works. Between that and the DA's investigation, Heather's looking at serious criminal charges on top of the civil case. How serious? Felony level. If the DA gets a conviction on the fraud charges, she's looking at 3 to 7 years. Maybe more if they stack charges. First supervised visitation turned into a disaster. Heather spent 45 minutes guilt-tripping Maya about ruining the family and asking why she betrayed her mother. The licensed supervisor ended it at 30 minutes and filed a report recommending reduced contact. The guardian ad litem's report to the court was damning. Maya presents as a well-adjusted child who has been inappropriately parentified by her mother. She expresses fear of her mother's anger and anxiety about potential unsupervised contact. She demonstrates a healthy bond with her father and stable school performance. Recommendation: primary custody to father with supervised visitation for mother pending completion of parenting classes and individual therapy. Heather tried one more stunt. During the second supervised visit 2 weeks later, she slipped Maya a phone, a burner smartphone, so we can talk privately without dad controlling everything. The supervisor caught it within 5 minutes. My lawyer filed an emergency motion. The judge suspended all contact for 6 months and ordered Heather to complete a parenting evaluation before any visitation could resume. When Heather stood up in court, screaming about it being unconstitutional and how she had rights, 2 deputies moved in. She shoved one of them trying to get to the gallery where Maya sat. Assault on a peace officer, contempt of court. She spent 2 days in county lockup before someone posted her bail. The DA filed charges. 3 counts of wire fraud, 3 counts of identity theft, filing a false police report, and assault on a peace officer. 8 counts total. Trevor got hit with similar fraud charges. He cooperated with investigators pretty quickly, gave up everything in exchange for a reduced sentence. Turned out he'd run this exact scheme with 2 other women before Heather. The divorce moved forward on a separate track. Heather's second lawyer withdrew after the criminal charges dropped. She tried representing herself, which went about as well as you'd expect. She filed a motion arguing my financial snooping was invasion of privacy. The judge actually laughed and said, checking your own joint bank account isn't snooping. It's responsible financial management. She filed another motion claiming the doorbell camera recordings were illegal surveillance. The judge pointed out it was my camera, on my property, recording common areas. Denied. She tried to argue Maya's videos should be excluded as fruit of the poisonous tree. The judge reminded her that there was no poisonous tree. Maya wasn't a government agent and made the recordings on her own volition. Every motion got denied. Every argument got shut down. 6 months after the initial hearing, the divorce finalized. I got primary custody. The house. Everything. Heather forfeited all claims to alimony and property. Court ordered restitution of $82,000 plus my legal fees, about $28,000. Total judgment, $110,000. She declared bankruptcy the next week, but the fraud-based restitution wasn't dischargeable. It'd follow her forever. Heather took a plea deal on the criminal charges. Sentenced to 3 years, 5 years probation after release, permanent felony record. Her lawyer immediately filed an appeal of the sentence, and she was released on appeal bond pending the outcome. Trevor got 7 years because of his prior pattern. The wage garnishment would follow her for life. Her business license got revoked, barred from operating anything similar for 10 years. The boutique space sat empty for about 2 months before a coffee shop took over the lease. Premier Supply Company dissolved after Trevor's conviction. Turns out he'd been running the same scam across 3 states with different business partners. But here's the thing nobody tells you about nuclear revenge. Winning doesn't make you whole. It just stops the bleeding. Maya had nightmares for the first few months. Nothing dramatic, but she'd wake up worried. We dealt with it. New locks, proper security system, therapy for both of us. I renegotiated my schedule. 2 days remote, home for dinner and breakfast every day. Maya joined soccer. I showed up to everything. Her coach said she'd finally come out of her shell. 10 months after everything finalized, I thought we were through the worst of it. Maya was thriving. Work was stable. The house felt like ours. Then Heather showed up at Maya's soccer game uninvited. It was a Saturday in May. Perfect spring day. Maya's soccer team was playing in the finals of their league championship. I was sitting in the bleachers with the other parents watching Maya defend the goal like she was born to do it when I saw Heather walk across the parking lot. She looked different, thinner, hair dyed darker, wearing clothes I didn't recognize, but it was definitely her, and she was heading straight for the field. She was out on appeal bond pending her sentencing appeal. Apparently she'd decided showing up at Maya's game was a good idea, despite the court order explicitly forbidding contact. My first instinct was to intercept her before Maya saw her, but I was too late. Maya spotted her mother during a water break and froze. Just stood there holding her water bottle, staring. Heather walked right up to the fence. Didn't go through the check-in table where all parents were supposed to sign in. Didn't ask permission. Just showed up like she had every right to be there. "Maya!" she called out, loud enough that half the parents turned to look. "Sweetheart, it's Mommy!" Maya didn't move, just kept staring with this blank expression that broke my heart. One of her teammates put a hand on her shoulder. I climbed down from the bleachers fast. By the time I reached the fence, Heather was reaching for the gate latch. "Heather, you need to leave. You're violating the court order." She turned to me with this smile that didn't reach her eyes. "I'm just here to watch my daughter's game. That's not a crime." Actually, it is. The order says no contact, no observation, no presence at her activities. This is all 3. You need to leave now. Her smile twisted into something uglier. Always so rigid, always hiding behind your little rules. I'm her mother. I have every right to be here. Other parents were watching now. A few looked uncomfortable. Most looked confused. Maya's coach jogged over, clearly trying to figure out what was happening. "Is everything okay here?" the coach asked. "No," I said, keeping my voice level. "This woman is violating a court order. I'm calling the police." I pulled out my phone and dialed 911. Gave them the address. Explained there was a violation of a no-contact order in progress at a youth sporting event. Heather saw me on the phone and raised her voice, playing to the crowd. "This man took my daughter away from me. Used lies and manipulation to turn everyone against me. And now he won't even let me watch her play soccer." One of the moms I'd talked to before, whose daughter was on Maya's team, stepped forward. "You need to leave. Now." Heather turned on her. "You don't know anything about our family. Your daughter looks terrified. Look at her." Heather looked. Maya stood in the middle of the field, frozen, while her teammates formed a protective circle around her. Her face showed no emotion, just blank shock. 2 patrol cars pulled into the parking lot within 5 minutes. Officers got out and walked toward us. I recognized one of them from a previous incident. I pulled up the court order on my phone and showed it to them. The female officer read it, then looked at Heather. "Ma'am, you're prohibited from any contact with your daughter, including attending her activities. You need to leave now or you'll be arrested." Heather's composure cracked. "I'm her mother. I have rights. Ma'am, leave voluntarily or we'll place you under arrest." Heather looked around at everyone watching, at Maya on the field, at the officers moving in, at other parents filming on their phones. For a second, I thought she might actually leave. Instead, she tried to rush the gate. She shoved past the female officer, got the gate open about 6 inches before the male officer grabbed her arm. She tried to pull away, started yelling. "Maya, baby, Mommy's here. Don't let them do this. Tell them you want to see me." Maya didn't move, didn't speak, just stood there with that blank expression while her teammates held her shoulders. The officers got Heather's arms behind her back. She fought them, kicking backward, trying to twist free. It took both officers to get her under control and into handcuffs. Tell them the truth. You're doing this to hurt me. You've always been jealous of my success." The irony of her yelling about success while being arrested at our daughter's soccer game wasn't lost on anyone. It took both officers to get her to the patrol car. She kept screaming the whole way about injustice, about lies, about how everyone was against her, about how I'd pay for this. Maya watched her mother get put in the back of the police car. Her face showed nothing, just blank. The officers took statements. The coach gave one. One of the other moms gave one. 2 other parents who'd witnessed the gate rushing gave statements. I gave mine and showed them the full court order, plus the documentation I'd been keeping. The female officer looked at the notebook I'd been maintaining. "This is good. Really good. You're going to want to file for an extension on that protective order when it comes up for renewal." "I will." After they drove Heather away, the ref asked if we wanted to resume the game or forfeit. Maya's coach looked at me. I looked at Maya. Maya, do you want to keep playing? She nodded slowly. Yeah, I want to finish. Guys, we are so close to hit 100,000 subscribers on this channel. If you are not subscribed to the channel, please consider subscribing. It really helps hit that 100,000 mark. Thanks for making this dream come true.